We'd like to welcome you to our next installment of our webinar series. We hope you find value in spending time and learning with us today. We're glad you're here. A few housekeeping items that we'd like to address is if you have questions during the webinar, we would love to answer them. So if you could put them in the Q&A screen at the very bottom, and we'll address them throughout the webinar. Today, we're going to be covering the topic of audit reporting. And as a system administrator, you know that effective audit reporting is the backbone of a secure and compliant system, but it can also be a complex landscape to navigate. And we hope Scott's going to be able to show you several reports and how to navigate that landscape. To make the most of our time together today, we encourage you to focus on your questions on specifically audit reports and chart auditing during this webinar. If you have a broader system administrator question or a support item, please feel free to submit a ticket to team@bestnotes.com or stay tuned for a future webinar in our series. Or if you want us to address the question, we can do that post the webinar. So feel free to put in any questions. I will be filtering out just the audit report and chart auditing questions. Once again, it's my pleasure to introduce Scott McMurtry. He's from our Tier 1 support team. Many of you know him and love him, and we're glad he's here to, he's been with BestNotes for 7 years, and is taking the lead on these webinar series and sharing these topics. And so I'll turn the time over now to Scott.
Thank you, Kristen. Hello, everyone. Good to see you all here. As Kristen kind of mentioned, this is kind of on the one hand, it's a continuation of our last webinar we had, but you don't need to have attended that one to get value from this one. But as last session, is that the word I want? We're going to go with it anyway. We covered the general system administrator duties and functionalities. We're going to go over what they can do to make sure everyone is doing their duties and functionalities properly. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right. And again, please feel free to put in questions in the chat. We've been really loving the kind of personal nature of these, getting to work with you directly. So look forward to it. We're going to go to the reports tab. Now, there's several reports we're going to look at. There's, of course, a whole bunch of reports available. We're focusing again on the one specific for auditing both users as well as clients to some degree. First ones we're going to look at are the user reports over here on the bottom. These are only going to be accessible if you are a system administrator. If other people try to select it, it's going to say you don't have permissions. However, being system administrators, we're going to actually start at the bottom here. They each have their own purpose. User providers is fairly simple. It's just telling you what users have what provider type. If we recall, in the user settings, we can set someone as one of these provider types here. We can also change what those provider types are on a per database basis. Yours may not reflect the same terminology we have here, but if you have a lot of users and you want to know who has what, and you don't really feel like clicking through each one of them, we have the user providers report. Pretty simple. Then we have the user permissions report. Now this one is a handy one. I use this all the time when I'm on the phone call with some of our clients. This is a way we can find out who can do what. People will call in, hey, who's able to give me permissions to do X, Y, or Z? I would just come here. I'd go to user permission that I'm looking for. In this case, it would be manage users. And then I would search for it and see who can do that. I can also see all user permissions that someone has. That can take a little bit longer to, but if we looking for people, we want to see what they can do and we want to see in aggregate. This is a great report to be able to do that. Again, it prevents the need to click on each person in user settings individually and go through it that way. Any questions on these two? Fairly straightforward, but want to make sure we're hitting what we need to. All righty. The next one is a little bit more nuanced. So let's go to user logins. This one gives us a couple things. One, it can give us the user ID and login ID. Those are usually the same thing, but I think now is a good time to kind of do a review. The user ID is created when you create the user itself. And initially they're the same thing. And the user ID cannot be changed. It's tied to the signature system on the back end. In order to keep data continuity, it has to remain. But maybe someone gets married or divorced or changes their name, or for some other reason, we can change the login ID. That's the one that you actually use. That's the one used to log in. That can be changed as needed. And both of those will show up in this user login report. This is also a very good way to see if they have their email verified, different users. Again, email verification is required now for new user setup. And it's a good security feature for anyone. We also have two-factor authentication functionality. This will tell you whether or not that user is using those. Again, this digital world nowadays is becoming more and more complicated. Two-factor authentication is another layer of security. We can also see who's using what version of BestNotes. A good use case for this, Dr. First, one of our, well, not one of our e-prescribing partner, is updating certain compatibility settings soon, and you'll need to be using certain versions of BestNotes to be able to access Dr. First. So if you're needing to audit your facility, making sure everyone's up to date or using proper versions, you can come here and see that. We can also see when a user was created. We can see the very first time they logged in, the most recent time they logged in, and what they've most recently done. We can also see when the password was most recently updated. That can be handy. Again, if their email address isn't verified, anyone with a managed user's permission can reset their password. And if we need to, audit who's changing what, make sure people are staying within proper bounds, this is a great way to see that. Any questions on the user login report?
There was one question about what type of two-factor authentication is used, text, call, or an app.
Great question. So we use an app. If we go to enable two-factor authentication, almost any two-factor authentication app works. You just scan the QR code. I use Microsoft Authenticator. You can use Google Authenticator. You can use Symantec VIP Access. Almost any two-factor authentication app that allows general access isn't the word I want, but it's the one I'm going to go with. That allows general access to third-party applications is going to function for you. But good question. It's done through an app.
No more
Anything?
questions.
All righty. Excellent. All right. So the next one is user groups. Now, user groups, as we mentioned in the last webinar we had, it's a way of categorizing users together that we can use to either just pull groups of users en masse, but also more specifically used to restrict documents or document types to certain user groups. If we want to see quickly who is in the user groups, we can see that here. We don't have a lot of user groups set up in the webinar database. But again, the other options is to go through them individually. This can be a handy way to look more widely. You can also sort by user to see what groups a specific user is in. All right, we're going to skip billing for a moment. We're going to get back to that one. The user audit. Now, this one is helpful for a bunch of potential reasons. This is going to tell you how people have logged in. That's going to show you when. It's going to show how many times they have failed to log in. So let's expand our date range here just a little bit. Kicks and giggles. There we go, boy. So we can see here, Joe Regular is logged in multiple times. We have Katie Regular, Sam McAdministrator. Lots of people have, or there have been lots of log events. We can see that the IP address has been changing. That's by itself normal. If you're logging in from home versus logging in from the office, if you have hybrid work environment, IP addresses are going to change. If you're at McDonald's or something, that's going to be a different IP address. However, by using a IP lookup functionality, you can find that on Google or what have you. You can see if there's, for example, maybe there's some IP pings, especially connected with failed logins from like Saudi Arabia. That's definitely something to look into, unless, of course, maybe you're taking vacation in Saudi Arabia. So none of this is going to say, hey, problem. But if there's a potential problem you want to look at, this is a great way to get the data to investigate. If you, for example, have a policy, just work from the office, you can see if people are logging in from elsewhere. And if you need to ask BestNotes support to change the site ID to make sure people are only using the authorized computers, that's fine. We can also do a quick check to see what kind of operating system people are using. You can tell that here at BestNotes headquarters, we're using Windows, but it will also show the Mac OS. It will show you if they're using the desktop application, if they're using the app suite, which is pretty much the EMAR. It'll show you what people are accessing and how they're doing it. We can see, if there's a lot of failed logins in a row right here, we can see, oh, there might be a problem. Maybe they just forgot their password, need to reset it, but maybe someone's trying a brute force attempt. Again, it's not going to tell you what's going on because there's no way of knowing, but it can give you a good baseline to investigate if needed. We also notice, this is especially pertinent with the sysadmin account, but everyone that logs in with a two-step login, such as BestNotes support or the sysadmin super user login, it does log who the person doing that is. That is essential, of course. So if different people are logging in as a system administrator, it is easy to see who has done what and when. It's also, in case you're ever worried, we at BestNotes can log in as people to help you, troubleshoot and train and whatnot, but it does track what we're doing in case we ever decide we want to go to prison. It's not happened yet. Any questions so far?
There's one question that we should probably talk about. It says, do you uninstall, then reinstall for the most up-to-date version?
Good question. Yes and no. If you're on our newer versions, you don't need to be on our newest version, but in our newer versions, you can just install. You don't need to uninstall the old one, and it will kind of put over it. If you're on an older version, or you just want to make sure that you don't have competing shortcuts, like if you're on a Mac, then it's a good idea to uninstall. It never hurts just to clear some stuff out, but with our newer versions, it's not required, no.
All right, and that's it for now.
Okay, excellent. We also, as you see, have the ability to filter for who we're looking for. We can change it to export view for when we print it. It will look a little bit better that way for export. But this is just a good way of seeing who's logging in, where, when, and how, or not logging in, as the case may be. Another thing to notice, for example, we have a log in, but we don't have a corresponding log out. Anytime you hit the log out button in BestNotes, or even just close it from the operating system close button, it will give us a log out notification. However, if maybe you shut off the computer, terminate the program, or just don't log off at all, some people keep BestNotes open for weeks at a time. It will not give you a log out corresponding entry. If you're logged into multiple computers at once, which you can do, again, you might not see a correlated logout entry. For this reason, and perhaps a couple others, it is good practice to close out of BestNotes before you shut down your computer or something else, just to make sure our audit reporting is accurate. It's for your security as much as anyone's. If there's some investigation of some suspicious activity, it's really good to be able to point out, I logged out right there. Not my problem. Or something of the sort. Right, any questions on the user audit report?
Brittany's asking, will users time out?
Good question. So BestNotes will lock. So the timeout, the screen in essence will lock out. In fact, it will look pretty much like this. Oh, look at that handsome devil. But it will not close the program. So BestNotes does time out in the sense of some security, but it does not log you out directly. If you're in the middle of a note or something, if you haven't saved recently, there's the potential of that getting lost. We don't really want to force log you out. So yeah, it's still a best practice to get in the habit of when you're done closing out of BestNotes.
And then this one is just a basic one, going back to the basics of, I noticed that the top is telling that times are displayed in central time. Is there a way to set that to the local user time?
Good question. Currently, no. That is set to central time. That's where ostensibly our servers are. It's a cloud server, so we don't have a single location in reality. But that is the time that's going to be logged. And unfortunately, we'll have to do the maths and shift it an hour or so as needed.
And then can we force log out all users simultaneously?
Yes. Good question. Dangerous question, but the answer is yes. So yeah, if we're in the user settings here, and if we go to password settings and then we go over to more, we have the hidden nuclear options to log everyone out, to force all password reset. Also, anytime you inactivate someone, it will force log them off. So if you just wanted to inactivate them and then reactivate them, within 10 seconds, it will force log them off. You will be able to log back in. So yeah, hopefully that's not something you'll need to do frequently, but that is certainly something available to you if you're a system administrator.
Okay. The app suite means that someone logged into the EMR. Is that correct?
Yeah, the EMAR. The EMR is the electronic medical record, BestNotes. The EMAR is the electronic medication administration record. And yes, there are a couple legacy companies that might have some older app suite functionality that we no longer support, but 99 times out of 100, yeah, that's the EMAR.
All right, we're good to go.
And we'll also tell you if you've logged on to the mobile app, if you're using that as well here. All right, let's jump down to the user billing list. Now, this is a way to see what you're billing for, or being billed for. Just specify what we are billing you for. BestNotes, of course, charges per user. The default terms are, $57 a month now. I better double check that.
That's correct.
Yay, I win. For the first 10 users, and then for users 11 and up, it will go down from there. And if you're one of our larger companies, users 101 and up will be even less per se. But this is a way to check what users you have and what you're going to be billed for. We do bill retroactively. That is a question we've gotten a lot. So the bill you get in September is for your August usage. So if you inactivate someone in August, hey, why is it on my September bill? It's actually your August bill that you're getting in September. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call. We're happy to help you out in that. So what users are you billed for? The short answer is any user that is active and or has logged in during that period of time. So in this case, if we inactivate Joe Regular, that's all well and good. But if he logs in September, before we inactivate him, you will still be billed for him during September. If a user is active in the database, even if they've never logged in, so if you create a user account for a doctor or something, and they're not starting until next month, if the account is active, you will still be billed for them. However, if the account is created, there is never a audit event, they've never logged in, and then inactivated before the end of the month, you will not be billed in that case. Hope that clears a couple things up. A good example, old Bill Normal here. We created his account. He wasn't activated. He never logged in. There'd be no charge for old Bill. Something you can do when you're creating a new user, if it's like, it's on the 29th, the person's not starting till the 1st, you can create the user account and just make sure you have inactive selected before you hit save. And then you can just go and activate them when they start the next month to avoid any unnecessary charges. And as a reminder, kind of what we covered the last time, you do have a bit of a rundown here on the account details page. If we click this little button here, it takes us to the user billing report. Magic. All right. Any questions on that?
Not on that one particularly. There is a question. If a group note says that it is locked by someone, can the system administrator force them out so that the note can be opened?
Good question. So that's tied to being in the note, not necessarily to being in the BestNotes application itself. So force logging them out would not inherently fix that problem. Unfortunately, they would need to go in, open the note, and hit the close button.
All right, that's it.
Fantastic. All right, so those are the user reports. Now let's go to look at something a little bit more fun. We have the audit information report, and this guy is magical. This will track almost anything that's done in BestNotes, period. Let's just run a quick version real quick, but we're going to go into a lot of nuance with this guy. And let's see, old Sam here. And hey, for kicks and giggles, let's all see what Joe's done. All right, so as it stands, I'm looking for everything these, I haven't added Joe yet. Now, as it stands, I'm looking at everything these people have done. I can see what client they were working on. We can see here, boy, I have a lot of stuff looking at reports recently. It's because I'm here with you right now looking at reports. It's logging in real time. Isn't that cool? I think it is. We can see what clients' changes or updates have been made to. We can see what changes have been made. We can see when permissions have been changed. For example, we changed some permissions here for Sam McAdministrator, or no, not by Sam McAdministrator, for Bill Normal, or a user that we saw that's been inactivated. If you need to contact BestNotes about a specific note, one way of finding the precise ID, you can come here and find the entity ID for it. If you don't want to say, well, on CID 123's chart on March 6th from the bottom, whatnot, we can come here and gather that data. This can be helpful. We can also look per client. For kicks and giggles, let's add Timothy. We can see everything that's been done for them. We can go back in time further. And here's everything that has been done in this time period for Timothy Test here. We can see by whom, we can see what's been done. if something was created, in this case, a clinical note. We can see if it was viewed. We can see who is accessing what patient's charts, who's adding what. We can filter different ways. So if I want to see, all right, everything, BestNotes support did, followed by the other people, we can filter it by user. We can filter it by action. If you want to see who did what, we can filter it by entity. All right, I want to see all the clinical notes or what have you, or I want to see all the medication updates. That's a way to sort it by that. We can also filter by action up here on top. Now, a use case scenario, and not a happy one, but it's been a little bit more than a year ago now. We had a person at one of our companies that was trying to get another person at that company's job. They were going in, they were unlocking the other person's notes, changing them or deleting sections, then relocking them. The other person would just sign it in their for review tab. They weren't paying a lot of attention in order to make it look like they were doing their job poorly. Eventually, the administrators started suspecting something was off. They were able to come here, look at the audit information report, and see exactly what was going on and take remedial and punitive actions as necessary. So this has the potential to help with, in fact, let's go ahead and just clear out this. Let's just see everything that's been deleted. A lot of times when you call us, say, hey, I need to know who deleted this note or something. We're happy to help. Feel free to call us. But all that we're doing for the most part is coming here to the audit information report. We can see here that Joe Regular deleted the patient chart for a Gabio test person. We can see that different appointments were deleted. We can see by whom. It's a way of finding out who has done what. Any questions or any scenarios that we want to go through on the audit information report?
One question just came in. What does live document note mean in the entity column?
Great question. So a live document is our med-clinical documents. The med-clinical assessments and treatment plans are living documents. They're always editable. They're always changeable. They're not static. They're not fixed until a snapshot has been published. So if they're editing a live document, it means they've made a change here. It helps if I spell the word thing properly. There we go. I've made this change. The save has been made. It's not on their chart yet. I've not made a snapshot, but that will show up in the audit report as a change to a live document. Excellent question.
Next question is full patient charts. Can they be deleted by any user?
You have to have the permissions to do so. So no, not inherently any user. You do not need to be a system administrator to do it, but you do need to have the permission to be able to hit the delete button here. On top of that, just so you're aware, it's a new-ish functionality. It's not brand new. But if you've been with us for a while, you might not know this. If we go to the contacts tab, double click on it to go to our basic window, and I can go here to all deleted contacts, contacts that have been deleted. For example, let's all bring back Gabby. I can come here and undelete right here. It's been restored. Hooray. It's been around for several months now, but that's a functionality to be aware of.
And then, yeah, what permission specifically do they need to get that delete button?
Great question. I am having a mind blank. Let's double check.
I think it's on the contacts. There's a delete.
I think it's just delete contacts. Yeah, right here. Delete contacts.
All right, I think that's it.
Excellent. Good question. Now, on the note of the audit information report, in the system customization settings, you are able to, this one, there's not that one, where is it? No, it's not assist customization. It is audit configuration. You are able to change what you're auditing. This is to comply with certain state laws. You need to be able to turn some things on and off. I recommend leaving these on. Again, this is a protection for you. If there's ever any investigation of any sort, or you need to do investigation on any sort, the better your data, the more accurate your conclusions. But the ability to filter some things is available in the audit configuration settings if you have that permission. But in general, I recommend leaving everything on. Let's see some other use cases. We had one person calling in. I guess focusing on the negative, but we had someone call in about 8 months ago. They were worried that their partner was planning on quitting and starting a new company with all of their contact data. Can't say what the partner's going to do, but they were able to come in here and see, boy, they are definitely transmitting all of the contact data for whatever purpose. And don't know what he did with that, but that was information he was now armed with. So again, this is a very versatile report. We can filter a great deal. We can also search for things specifically within the results. If you have like a long period of time or a lot of parameters, you can get a lot of information. Such as right now, I've run this again with no filters or no action filters anyway, and I'm going to see everything more or less that's happened. There are a couple things that aren't audited. If it's not changing, if it's not affecting the client or affecting user permissions, not everything has an audit point, but pretty much anything that's connected to a client record, anything HIPAA related or permission related is going to be logged here by default. See what appointments were made, what user permissions were added or changed, by whom. That's another question we get calls of a lot is, hey, when I used to be able to do this, now I can't. Well, looks like that was changed last week. Why? I don't know, but here's who you can talk to. That type of thing. Any questions on the audit information report? If not, we'll move on, but feel free to put any questions that you may have that come to mind as we go forward. Because this report can do a lot. There's only so many scenarios I can run through off the top of my head, but if you think of one, I'd be happy to look into it. All right, we'll move forward. So those are the primary reports for auditing the system usage, auditing your users, seeing what your employees are doing, how they're doing it, and if they're doing it properly, in essence. We also have some reports that are used for auditing the notes themselves, auditing clients. We need to make sure that the documents are being created, that they're being done properly in the right time frame. So we're going to look at some of those now. Kind of the basic isn't the word I want because it can do the most, but a good starting point, I guess is a better word, is the log review. This is a pretty robust report. It's going to default, if you're not logged into sysadmin, to just you, the user. I'm going to change this to all, and let's just expand this, something fun. Let's see if we can handle this. Boom. All right. So the log review report can be used for several things. One, you can see what notes have been created and when. Pretty basic. We can see by default it's grouped by log status. We can see what notes have been finished and what notes haven't. For example, unlocked notes can't be signed. It's indicated that they're not finished. So this is a good report to run on occasion at the very least to make sure people are finalizing their notes. We can see whether or not people have signed it. We'll look at a couple other signature reports in a bit that can give you a little bit more nuance, but this can tell you if there's any contacts that still need to sign or if they have signed it as well as with staff. We can see that there's some pending signatures here. We can see if it's been portalized, if you're using the BestNotes portal. This can all be seen on the log review tab. We also have the ability, now of course we can filter by certain types of documents. A good use case for that is some of our facilities need to see if a master treatment plan needs to be updated every 30, 60, or 90 days. So we can filter by master treatment plan. Then we have our number of days options down here. And I can go with current to previous document, and then maybe log date to today. And I don't know if we have any master treatment plan snapshots in here. We do, hooray. But what I can see here is that for Jake Doe here, they had a master treatment plan snapshotted in this time period that we've set, which is a good year. We can see how long it's been since that's happened. So if I needed to make a snapshot every 30 days, well, we're doing better down here and definitely horrible up here. If I need to do it, the log date to today is going to show us here the days between the previous document and the current document. We don't have any here. Let's go ahead here. Actually, let's go to the whole Timothy test. Let's make another master treatment plan snapshot and see what that looks like. All right, we make a snapshot really quickly here. Go back to our reports. Let's go ahead and run this again. And am I including today? I am, right? Should see to our previous document. Oh, I relabeled it so it's showing up as a different document. But anyway, it would show us, if I hadn't done that label thing, how long it's been since the previous instance of this particular snapshot. In fact, master treatment plan might not be the best example for that. Let's look at maybe a clinical note, clinical progress note. There we go. So the time between this clinical progress note for John Doe and the one before it was 2 days. And we can check that by lining up that as well. That way you can make sure that things are being done on a regular basis if that's something you need to track. BestNotes doesn't do a whole lot of bothering you. Hey, alarm, blah, 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 check this and that. You can always set tasks or calendar appointments to remind you to do things. But we do have a lot of features here to look at what has been done to make sure you're within compliance. Any questions on the log review? One thing I should point out, actually, you'll find this on a lot of reports, but if you hit the control button, you can look at multiple things, or you can select multiple things. So if I don't want to see everything, I'm not looking at the whole list, but I do want to see all of the progress notes, I can hit the control button down and view all of the progress notes in my report. Or if I want to look at certain tags, but not all of them, we can do the same thing. That's a functionality in a lot of reports, but not everyone notices that. So you're welcome. Any questions so far?
No other questions.
Okay, excellent. On the note of log review, we talked a bit about pending signatures. We also have the ability to show only pending signatures. Let's sort by contact. So these are just the documents that still need to be signed by someone. This can be a good review to know who you need to, bother to get their notes done. We can also look at ledger details on the log review report. Billing's not the focus of this training, but if you are tying ledger codes to a document, which will happen automatically if they're both tied to the calendar, or you can tie it to the document individually, you can see that here if you set the right filters. We also have a couple other pending signatures report. We have this one. Let's go longer. This is just another way of looking to see what needs to be signed. This is user focusing. It's more specific for what users need to sign what things. The log review is focused by document and then what documents need to be signed. This is by user and what users need to sign which documents. Just kind of a different view. Then we also have the contact pending signatures report, which is going to show what contacts have things to sign and how many things they need to sign. Just kind of a good way to get aggregate. And we can sort by number of signatures to see, who's definitely behind on top, or we can just sort by contact. Whatever works. Any questions on reviewing the documents for completion, for signatures, or any of that sort?
No open questions right now.
All right, excellent.
Oh,
All right, well, I'm
actually,
going to show
does
you.
does BestNotes have a plan to add hyperlinks to take us directly to unsigned documents?
Well, that's a good question. Filters, let's go back. So a lot of reports will have the ability to jump to links. As far as the documents itself, it's not going to take you direct, or the log review anyway, isn't going to take you directly to the document from the contact name. However, we can click on the document there and it's already in there. So most of our reports do have hyperlinks in essence, including the log review. This is a ROI, so it opens up in a new window as opposed to on the client's chart. But yeah, we can jump directly to most of these documents. Excellent question.
All right, that's it for now.
All righty. Let me show you another good document auditing report. It's going to be, there we go. The med clinical snapshot status. We had the question earlier about live documents. And again, the assessments and treatment plans in the med clinical are live documents. We can update information in there. It's not inherently going to go on the activity log until we publish the snapshot. How then can we tell if the information, the most recent information, has been put in a most recent snapshot? And that can be done through the med clinical snapshot status report. There's a mouthful. All right, let's expand our date range and run this guy. All righty. So we have here a bunch of different med clinical documents. You can, of course, filter by specific ones if you want. You can filter by tags. You can filter by provider. But we can see a couple columns over here on the right. The last med clinical update. So that's the last time something was changed on the live document. It can be a deletion, an addition, whatever. Anytime that you do something and click somewhere else and it says saving, that's going to log right here. That's the same thing that logs as live document in the audit information report. But then we have this column over here on the right, the snapshot date. And we see a couple things here. One, we see this guy, the ones that are just, no highlight, they have data filled in. That means that the most recent data is in the most recent snapshot. We can see that the snapshot was done just 10 minutes after the most recent update here. This is indicative that the snapshot on the client's chart reflects the most recent med clinical information. On the other hand, look at this one, for example. We have a more recent update that was done after the snapshot was made, only a couple seconds after, it looks like. But we can see that while there is a snapshot, the most recent snapshot, if there's multiple snapshots, this is only showing the most, or not necessarily just the most recent, because you can see multiple in the report. But it's going to show you that there is data changes that have not yet been snapshotted. So that can be potentially something you need to look into. Then we have these ones that are blank. And then in fact, we can also filter by just potential problem ones. The ones that are blank means there is data in Betty Doe's medical assessment here. There has been stuff that's been added, but no snapshot has ever been taken. So this can be a very good way to find out what the status of the live documents are as far as it pertains to the client's activity log and published documents. A thing to note, this is not going to show you people that have never had the medical document opened. So if no one has ever gone to, John Doe and opened up the psychiatric assessment, if there's never been a log event on that to begin with, it's not going to show up here because it in essence doesn't exist yet. But for anything that's been opened, edited, this is going to show up on this report as long as you have the right filters for it. Any questions on that?
No questions submitted.
All right, excellent. Well, a couple others I want to go look at really quickly. Let's go to, we have the client chart audit. This is just, again, kind of another review to look at, or not review, another view to review, I suppose. But this is a good way of seeing what's been done for. Let's go with, that's not what I want. Let's expand my date range so we can get a good look at what's going on here. So we can see what has been done for different people on a calendar view. The audit information report can give us a lot more data, but if we just want an overview, what's been done for this person when, this is a great way to do it. Now we can just come in here and see, what's been done, what's been added in a calendar view, which can be really nice. Another thing that we should look at really quickly, actually, is we have on a client's activity log, the log frequency report. And this is going to show within a date range how many instances of certain notes have been made. It's a frequency report for the log. Hey, who knew? Hence the name. This isn't commonly used because it's kind of hidden in there, but this can be a good tool. So I wanted to point it out for you. Right here, a little pie chart and paper icon on the activity log.
So Scott, maybe just a note on that is one of the reasons why that's super helpful is sometimes companies need a note to be done within a certain time frame, maybe 72 hours after the client admits, or you want to know how often you're logging a note to a client, and this is a visual way to see where those notes are being done on the client's chart.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Kristen. Yeah, there's lots of use cases for different reports we have. We have lots of reports, and yeah, this is another good one for compliance purposes, as Kristen mentioned. Making sure things are done within a appropriately timely manner. All right, that's actually most of the auditing reports per se that I wanted to cover. I guess a couple other things I can mention. If you have the permissions for it, we have a couple check boxes here. These can and are often used, this little green checkbox here. That's if you have the file audit permission and its general intent is to say, hey, this particular document has been audited. However, it can be used for anything you want, but you can specify that a certain process has happened. On that note, we also have the beautifully named process identifier, which identifies that a process has happened. It is, in essence, a glorified checkbox for whatever you want it to be. It can be great for tracking things. Some of our reports will pull whether or not these options are checked. Just make sure you're consistent in what they mean within your company, or they will quickly become useless. Data-wise, anyway. All right. Do we have any other questions?
No other questions at this time.
All right, I've sent out a poll. If you would love to fill that out, you certainly don't need to. But we want these webinars here that we're doing to be beneficial for you. So if this was of help or not of help, please let us know. This is anonymous. And also, we'd love to know what you would like us to focus on upcoming webinars. We're planning on doing this for the foreseeable future. We want to make sure that we're serving our customers best we can because frankly, you people are awesome and we want to help.
All right, as they're filling that out, we do have a question that came in. Can we filter for the audited documents in a client chart?
Well, there's a good question. They're all good questions. I've not heard a bad one yet, but for example, we do have this filter option over here. If we scroll down to the note status, we do have the ability to search by audited, which will show us just those. And then we also have the processed, which is again kind of a generic, but that's for the process identifier, which is intentionally generic because it can mean anything. So let's go ahead and process identify that one. Go by processed. And there you go. So the answer is yes. Just to the default filter tab, just scroll down to the bottom. Great question.
All right. Well, let's see. What is a process tag? I think Michael would like to review what that process tag is.
Yeah, so that's just this guy right here, a little Pentagon home base looking guy. In essence, over the years, we've had people request a dev request, hey, can we have a checkbox to indicate whether or not, mom and dad have reviewed this? Or, hey, can we have a checkbox to indicate, whether or not this has been, um, reviewed by the parole board or what have you. Instead of making 100 different checkboxes for 200 different companies, we made the process identifier, which is glorified name for random checkbox. As long as you're consistent for what it means, you decide what it means. You choose the process that it identifies and identify it with the process identifier. There is a permission associated with that. So not everyone necessarily needs to have the access to that thing if whatever you're identifying is something that only certain groups of people should do. That kind of
So
makes sense. There's mud.
yeah, so here's somebody, I use the audit icon for billing sent and process icon for payment receiving for my billing. So I think the thing that to say about this is as system administrators, you can define what that process indicator means for your company and communicate that and hold that as a this is for the billing process. This is for our signing process, whatever process you want. So last question, what was the permission for the auditing check? I want to make sure not everyone has access to that.
Yeah, so that is actually directly tied to the file audit permission. Now, the file audit permission is most commonly used in conjunction with the word I want, unlocking documents. So the ability to unlock locked documents is also tied to the file audit permission. But yeah, if we hover over here and manage quality assurance, that's that little green checkbox. So yeah, that one generally should be fairly restricted because it also allows unlocking. And then we also have the process indicator. I've been saying identifier this whole time. I'm bad. Indicator indicates the process, not identifies. For shame.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Scott. Thank you all for your attendance today. We hope it was helpful for you. And thanks for filling out the poll. We'll take some of your suggestions and have future topics. And so be looking out for future webinars. And we hope you all have a wonderful day.